The world's economic superpower has always been the US, and its currency, the almighty dollar, has held the throne as the international reserve currency for decades. But what happens when this throne starts to crumble, and the trust in the dollar is no longer absolute, and other currencies start to gain ground? Welcome to the de-dollarization of the global economy, a seismic shift in the world's financial landscape that could reshape the balance of power and create winners and losers. De-dollarization is not a new phenomenon, it has been brewing for years, but recent geopolitical events have accelerated its pace. But this is just the beginning. Will the dollar be dethroned, or will it fight back and maintain its reign? Join us on this journey as we explore the past, present, and future of the global economy and the changing role of the US dollar. Hello everyone, it's me, the Daily Kaizen, and welcome to my channel. And in this video, we will go through the de-dollarization of the global economy and its impact. The US dollar has been the boss of global economic scene for a long time. It's been calling the shots in international trade, and every country has had to deal with it. But lately, something's been brewing. A trend is emerging where countries are not as dependent on the almighty dollar as they used to be. To understand how dollar became the king of the global finance, let's rewind a bit. After World War II, the US dollar took over from the British pound as the big cheese on the international currency bloc. This happened in 1944 when the Bretton Woods Agreement was signed, which declared the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Fast forward to today, the original Bretton Woods Agreement has bitten the dust, but the dollar still reigns supreme as the international reserve currency. For most of human history, we relied on hard coins made of copper, silver, or gold as of our currency. And why? Well, it's simple. Those metals have intrinsic value based on their perceived worth and the skilled labor that goes into mining and minting them. Plus, there's a finite amount of those metals on Earth, so the amount of money available to us has always been limited. Even after paper currencies were introduced, they were tied to gold reserves. That was the case for the US dollar too until 1971, when the US delinked its currency from gold. And that's when things got interesting, folks. Suddenly, the dollar became the big dog on the global economic bloc. But here's the thing. That situation was never going to be sustainable. It was unnatural, and sooner or later the power balance would shift. And that's exactly what's happening now. China, Turkey, Brazil, Egypt, they all have been taking steps to move away from the dollar in their bilateral trade deals over the past decade. And that trend has only accelerated since the COVID-19 pandemic. More and more countries are realizing that they don't want to rely on the dollar anymore. We all know that the printing of currency notes can have inflationary effects. It's simple economics, really. There are limited resources, both in terms of physical materials and human labor, in every country. Printing more money has to be done carefully, with consideration given to factors like gold reserves and overall economic output. Unfortunately, during the COVID-19 pandemic, some governments resorted to printing excessive amounts of money, leading to a runaway inflation. The United States was particularly guilty of this. But as more and more countries are starting to diversify their reserves and explore other options, we may see a more stable global economy with less inflation. While this might sound like a bad thing for the dollar, there are pros and cons to consider. In fact, some experts say that even the US itself is interested in de-dollarization in order to reset the value of the dollar. And you know what else? It could actually provide some stability to the global economic system by reducing financial manipulation by big banks and institutions. Plus, it could help keep things in check when it comes to international trade. On the flip side, a weaker dollar could mean higher inflation in the US, and it could also lead to a decrease in the country's global influence. Take India, for example. They're currently setting up rupee-based trade deals with 18 different countries. It's a sign that the world is changing and the dollar's dominance is on the decline. India is not the only country decreasing its reliance on the US dollar, as during this official visit in China, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva voiced his criticism for the US dollar's dominating role in the world economy. French President Emmanuel Macron also suggested that Europe should decrease its dependence on the dollar during his own visit to China. It seems several countries such as India, China, Russia, Malaysia, Brazil, and others are now establishing special payment systems to facilitate bilateral trade in domestic currencies, excluding the US dollar. Lula even went as far as to suggest the BRICS countries should establish their own currency instead of relying on the dollar to facilitate trade among members: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Despite all of this, it's worth noting that over 60% of world trade is still conducted in US dollars. Despite all the buzz surrounding de-dollarization, but with more and more countries taking steps to move away from the dollar, it seems change is in the air. Several factors have contributed to this trend, making it increasingly risky for economies to rely on the dollar. One group of countries that are particularly critical of the US dollar are those who have an ongoing feud with Washington, such as Russia and China. By virtue of being the international reserve currency, the US wields significant global power and influence. However, it has also become the world's leading sanctions imposing nation, exerting pressure on countries, organizations, and even individuals who don't share its views. Russia has already experienced the negative impact of US sanctions since the start of Ukraine conflict, and China has similar reasons to be cautious of relying on the US dollar as a reserve currency. Secondly, the US government has been piling up debt at an alarming rate, leaving the financial markets vulnerable to potential disruptions. In fact, the US national debt currently stands at a staggering $31.46 trillion. Additionally, the demand for the US dollar has decreased following a series of bank collapses earlier this year. These banks all had one thing in common: interest on the US Treasury bonds. This decreased demand has further added to the concerns over the dollar's reliability. Finally, the dominance of the US dollar over other countries is also reflected in the debt they owe in dollars. This means that fluctuations in the exchange rate can have significant effects on the economies of other countries. As a result, economic decisions made by the US government can have a ripple effect on the global economy. Now, let's answer the question that's been on everyone's mind for at least a decade now. Which currency will replace the US dollar? The truth is, it's easier said than done. Sure, several countries have made efforts to trade in non-US dollar currencies, but these pacts have often been short-lived due to trust issues. Plus, there is a question of which currency is strong enough to take on such a huge responsibility. Will it be the Chinese yuan, the Japanese yen, or the euro? Only time will tell. As we come to the end of our discussion on the de-dollarization of the global economy, one thing is clear. The world is changing, and it's time to start thinking about what that means for our future. The dollar's dominance may be at risk, but that doesn't necessarily mean doom and gloom for the world economy. In fact, many experts believe that a more diverse and balanced currency system could bring stability and prosperity to all nations. So as we move forward, let's keep an open mind and continue to explore the possibilities. Also, please don't hesitate to share your opinion down in the comment section. And if you want to stay up to date on the latest developments in the world of finance and economics, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching.